Hello, beautiful souls. You are listening to the Joyful Living Podcast, and I'm your host, Quinn Curtis, and I am joined by my dear friend, an amazing soul, Ashlee Miller. And she has been a guest on our show in the past, and every single time she's been a guest, it's been such a popular episode, and there's just massive value every time we come together and talk, and we have Ashlee on. So we're so excited to have you here, Ashlee. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, good. Me too. Goodness. Well, Ashlee and I have cooked up something really, really fun. Goodness, Ash, has it been like 2 years now since we launched the business, our little business?
Yeah. Well, maybe a year and a half. It'll be 2 years in the fall, I think.
Oh my gosh, it's gone by so fast. So that amount of time ago, Ashlee and I launched a way fun project that was called Fueled with Joy in Business. And we created this gorgeous affirmation deck together with all these insanely beautiful messages about how to have joy in your business and how to infuse your business with joy so that you really were fueled by it and could grow your business in a way that felt good and was joyful and meaningful to you. And all of the affirmation cards actually incorporate essential oils, which Ashlee and I both adore. So that was such a fun project that we've been dreaming up the next deck. And so, Ashlee, do you want to introduce the next deck, or do you want me to? I know we're both very excited about it.
Yeah. Well, as I'm sitting here thinking of all the listeners, my heart goes out to every single one of you. Mm-hmm. Because our new thing focuses on moms, and this is all about Fueled with Joy in Motherhood. But just as I think of everybody listening to this, like, joy is such a necessary, it's as important as oxygen. Yeah. And when you bring in motherhood to it, like, it's really the only way to survive and thrive through it. And so I'm super excited about our new deck of affirmation cards. They're a little bit sassy, a little bit real, I would say. But I think that anybody could take the deck and just flip through them and find one thing that gives you hope in the moment, and that gives you something that you can just sink your teeth into, and you can say, okay, I've got this for today. And I'll go forward. And then when you think about joy, you and I have talked a lot about joy. Do you want to talk more about that for a moment, or?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Or if you had another train of thought, but yeah, I love everything where you're going. So I'm on the ride.
Well, when we started this joy conversation, Quinn and I were just seeing people just kind of walking through life, halfway living, right? And it's really not living if you are never feeling your soul spark, and you're never feeling that fire inside that says, I'm here. And I love it, and I'm excited. And yes, there's mess and chaos all around me, but I feel joy, and it comes from all different places. And so Quinn and I, at the time, kind of served as accountability partners, that we would find joy every week. And I don't know about you, Quinn, it's been so long since we started doing this, but I kind of felt like a brand new student to joy, finding my sea legs and finding how to stand in joy and how to feel joy, how to seek joy, how to choose joy, and how to structure my week around it a little bit, instead of being in that space of not feeling like my dreams matter, not feeling like I can take time to do something as simple as go on a walk, or I remember you took time to paint, or maybe it's taking time to actually savor a trip to the grocery store instead of just functioning through it, or whatever it is. Different things bring each of us joy. But at the time, I remember it was a really big stretch to figure out, well, what is joy? Like, how do I even feel that? And it wasn't that I was unhappy, and you've never been in that space either, I think. Well, I've known you being unhappy, but there's a difference between being happy and feeling joy through your days, whatever is required.
For sure. Yeah, gosh, you're bringing back so many memories, Ash. It really has been such a journey, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just thinking back to a conversation that we had, gosh, even maybe a year ago, because I think this latest, like, Fueled with Joy in Motherhood has been something you and I have been dreaming up for a really long time. Because I remember that it was like we were both kind of talking and realized, oh my gosh, do any of our friends or any of the people we know, did they actually enjoy motherhood? Did they have joy in it? And it was this big epiphany of, oh my gosh, so many are just struggling through and surviving, and they're surprised when they hear that we're actually enjoying it or we have joy in it. Like, it's this weird thing. Do you remember that conversation, Ash?
I totally do. I don't know. I just think like joy is magnetic, and when it shows up, you know the difference, and you have to seek it out. I think that's one of the things that these cards encourage is you to actually feel the joy. Like, your life is what it is right now. There's going to be things that frustrate you. There's going to be things that just level you. And joy really is the way to breathing through it and to being able to do life with a smile and to have some fun in there and to feel like your life has purpose and to feel like you're not just functioning with your to-do list. You're not just running those errands and mothering your kids and doing what everybody else wants you to do. There's a piece of every day where you're like, no, I am here. And I keep thinking, Pink has this song. I don't know if I've shared it with you, but she has a song called I Am Here. Have you listened to that?
I don't know if I have. I should.
It's so good. But she just talks about like where we are right now. Like, it is where we are. Like, I am here, and just singing that in your soul and being ready to make mistakes, being okay to dance in the rain, being okay to be in the mud, being okay to, muddle through it, but smiling, right? Like, and not wishing you were somewhere else. And I think when you bring that back to motherhood, like, it's so easy to feel like, and I've been thinking about this. I have 3 kids, as you know, but when my boys were little, they are only, I have to think this through, 15 months apart. I think that's right. So when they were born, I just thought, okay, this is the hardest it'll ever be. Like, when I had Jackson, because there were 2 babies, 2 diapers, 2 feedings.
Oh, yeah.
And I just remember thinking, like, this is the hardest it'll ever be. If I can get through this, I can do anything. And then when Jackson was about 4 months old, I went to Target by myself and with both babies, and I did it. And I thought, okay, I can do life. And now, like, they're both teenagers. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if I had known that that wasn't going to be the hardest time of my life.
Would have given up then. No, just kidding.
No, I seriously think I would have. I think it's a good thing we don't know. Like,
I think so too.
anyways, but I think it's in that, like, not looking back to, okay, I wish they were babies, or not looking forward. Like, I wish that we had this teenage thing figured out better. Like, I am here. Like, and if I am here, I better have some joy in this day, because life's kind of hard. Like, I don't know if anybody else is feeling that sometimes, but I certainly have had the hits coming at me. But I will say, like, this joy in motherhood, or this just joy through your life, like, that is what helps me, like, handle it.
I love it. You know, it's so funny that I'm thinking that I'm so excited this is coming up. I feel like some of our moms listening are hearing this conversation through the lens of like, oh yeah, okay, so joy, okay, I'll make that my top priority. That'll be on my list. Like, I need to be better at joy. What would you say to that, Miss Ash?
Yeah, I used to do joy like that too. And I think that that's a really good first step, honestly.
Yeah, so true.
Because it brings your awareness. Like, really, that's where we started, right? Was we became aware, like, hey, we say we're happy people, but are we really hitting this joy spot? Are we savoring things and enjoying them? And it's not like, I sometimes think the word joy in this conversation, it sounds like we just like dance through the field of poppies blowing in the wind, and we're so delighted and we don't have problems. Like, it's not that type of joy. It's really a joy. There's little things that you schedule in. There's little things that you know, okay, it matters to me that I hit up my yoga class because I feel like me there. It matters to me that I read a book that's completely fiction, total waste of time. I read a ton of personal development books, but for me, on my joy list is for sure reading nonsense, romance books, whatever. Yeah. Like, it might be, I feel joy making Rice Krispie treats for my kids. Like, yes, I'm going to eat some. I'm definitely going to lick the spoon. Like, it's things like that. and letting it get into your soul. Like, and so I think getting into the soul part, it's not on the to-do list. You start that way because I think you need the structure. As women, like, we just function so much of, okay, change the laundry, get dinner going, do some homework, and then you fall into bed. Like, that's what we're trying to get away from. So squeeze a little bit of joy in, start there, but then start really asking, like, what makes you come alive? What makes you feel like you? What makes you show up in this world as you? And brings that joy in, because I think that that's part of it too. Like, I've learned just even in my work, there's certain aspects of my work that truly bring joy because I'm bringing my best gifts. I'm functioning at a high level because it's me. Yeah. And that's where joy is sometimes for me. Like, I just think it's a journey. I think it's a good place to start, but let it keep going. Don't make it just on your to-do list because you really won't tap into that true power of what we're talking about.
I agree. I think that you've also got to be, you know, even just in the motherhood conversation, we could be talking about anything with motherhood. And I think it's easy to go quickly to guilting or shaming ourselves, like, oh, I should be a better mom. And like, now it might even feel like now the bar is raised higher. It's not enough that I survive each day, and now I have to be joyful in it. Like, are you kidding me? But what we really are offering, I hope you'll see with this conversation, is like, I think I could speak for both of us in saying that Ashlee and I really like hacks. Like, we like the simplest, quickest, peacefulest route to something. And so honestly, joy, in my experience, and I'm curious if you would relate to this too, although I assume you would, is it's been the hack. It's the way that if you keep yourself anchored to that point of like, hey, let's enjoy today. Let's find the joy. Let's savor it. Let's lean into joy. Then it unkinks all of the other pieces that usually make motherhood kind of intense and painful and some kind of awful.
Not to sugarcoat it. Get right to it.
Darling.
Well, I totally agree. I think it's a level of rejoicing, right? And it may be something silly in the beginning until you kind of find who you are in this joy conversation. But I will tell you that I believe every single person is wired for joy. Even if you deal with lots of heavy things, or maybe you deal with some depression, or maybe life really is hard right now, you're wired for joy. So somewhere in your life, there's a path where you can create that joyful experience, where you can rejoice in the moment, where you can feel like you can fully breathe throughout your entire body, and you're not like painting a smile on your face. It truly is beyond contentment, beyond just happiness in the moment. It really is this energy that will be so familiar to you, I think. Don't you feel that way, Quinn? Like, once you start to figure out joy, doesn't it feel like it's who you really are?
Oh, totally. It feels like you're peeling back all the layers of who you're not, or who you thought you had to be, into just your own joyful, playful essence.
Yeah, I think so.
And I was thinking about that piece, especially, like, I think that, I don't know, I've never articulated it like this, but I feel like the journey you and I have been on has been that we've become better at taking ourselves and our lives less seriously and taking joy more seriously. Meaning that we're not quite as hard on ourselves as we used to be, and we're a lot quicker to just roll with it and play with life. Don't you think?
I think so, for sure. And I think it's become just a habit, at least for me. It's been a while since we've had a joyful conversation like this, because it just is who we are now. But yeah, I think for me, I've become better at asking reflective questions every week of, okay, what can I let go of? And just like you said, not taking it all so seriously. And what can I bring in that will be joyful? And I was such a just novice, I guess, at having joy in my life. Like, I don't know that it's modeled very often or talked about very often. No. So for me, I have to schedule it on my calendar, and I just put it as an appointment. So it's like, nope, I've got an appointment then. I'm so sorry. I can't do other things, because I need to know that I'm going to be able to do my week. And for me, it's just like eating or exercise or something. Like, there has to be something that I'm choosing because I want to try out joy and I want to put it on and I want to be in it and I want to savor it. And I don't know, I've gotten better at it over the years, but I still have to sometimes put some boundaries in place. Okay, where's the joy happening this week? And that's enough to remind me too, like, oh no, I'm going to enjoy this or this already on my calendar, but I need something that isn't justified by work or isn't justified because my family's participating or isn't justified because, oh, my friends will be there. Like, is it really going to light me up? Do I feel great about it? And if not, then I need to take care of that.
Yes. Yeah, it's like with getting more serious about joy, it makes you more clear on what's a yes and what's a no, what's actually helpful and what actually is going to weigh you down and make things harder.
Absolutely.
For sure. So I think it would be interesting for everybody to hear a little snapshot into, and I know you've shared a few ideas, but like take us behind the scenes in Ashlee Miller's home of, what are some of those little joyful moments that you really love, especially in motherhood, like with your kids?
Oh, a couple of ideas come to mind. First of all, I think we are so equipped to say no to so many things. Joy is definitely going to be saying yes to some things that may not make sense. For example, Saturday night, one of my kids has had a major school project and we powered through it. And he wanted ice cream. The last thing I wanted to go do is go to Walmart on a Saturday night. It brings out like the entire county is there on Saturday night. And so I thought, I do not want to go do that. But I care about him and I care about him feeling like I give yeses on silly things. So I was like, we should absolutely go do that. Like, let's go to Walmart. Aww. And it's not seeing the trip to Walmart as like, Walmart crowds. I'm a total introvert. So to go there when there's crowds is like, blah. But to see like, okay, how can I make this fun? How can I bring joy to this moment? And of course it'd be getting 3 kinds of ice cream, not just one.
Yeah, of course.
Right. And checking out like, okay, what makes this fun? And not being so hard-nosed all the time and not so strict and not that I want my kids to run wild, but just saying yes to crazy things. One of the things that I've done is pull my kids out for mental health days. Because we might need to go do something fun. Like they might go skiing or they might go with me to something. I frequently schedule tickets to shows. My daughter loves going to the theater, so I've almost always got a theater show on the calendar because it's fun, right? And it's easy to say, oh, it doesn't matter. We've seen it. But it does matter. It's about getting out and breathing new space, thinking new thoughts. Like, but you asked about a typical week, so let me just think. So this week, it's kickboxing a few days a week. I am not an exercise person whatsoever, but right now that's been fun, and so I'm doing it.
That's so fun, Ash.
Yeah, it is fun. And so it includes that. It includes I want to get either a cactus or a succulent, one or the other. And making that happen. I bought a new book last week. I'm definitely going to spend some time reading that. We're in baseball season, so joy matters a lot during baseball season. I love going to baseball, but we go to like 5 games a week plus practices. So it's a lot of baseball. So I have to look at my other days and say, okay, if baseball isn't happening, I've got to be doing something that lights me up those other nights. And sometimes that could be being at home and being intentional about that. It might be doing a puzzle with my kids, or it might be not doing anything, like actually just sitting there. But I think about it because I know if I don't do it at the end of the week, I'm going to be like, oh my goodness, I was at baseball every night. I went to exercise. Like I start to feel angry about my time because I'm not showing up in joy for myself, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not looking at it. So even just scheduling this podcast, we looked at Thursday morning and it's like, no, I've got an appointment then. So my appointment Thursday is I've got breakfast and a pedicure scheduled. Like
truth comes out. I'm so glad we did reschedule it then.
Sorry, I can't do it Thursday.
Yes.
But it's scheduling that in or looking at it. And I'm not a huge planner or scheduler, but I am intentional about making sure that joy is happening for me. It's happening with my kids. It's happening with my husband. So that's one of the things that we've realized lately is with the crazy baseball schedule, like date night isn't happening how we would normally want it to. So looking at that for this week, it's like, hey, we need to slip out of this house at some point and go do something fun. But I'm looking at my needs there, and it's all driven by joy. Or yesterday, the joyful moment was just the house felt stuffy and we'd been here all day. I'm like, I've got to get out of here. So it's going for a drive. 4 of the 5 family members went for the drive. We listened to music. We looked at big houses, and it started raining, and it's just getting out. But it's joyful. It's seeing something new. It's new conversations, new ideas. I don't know. The thought that comes to mind, that popular meme where it's like everything works better after it's unplugged, even you. That's joy.
Yes.
It's unplugging from what you think you need to be doing and doing what your spirit actually needs to keep going in your best way, right? We don't want it to just be survival. We want it to be thriving, right?
Yeah.
And it's looking at, hey, does this actually bring joy? So again, our schedule's been crazy. There was a huge wedding that we were invited to over the weekend, and it was a crazy wedding. There were fire dancers. There were, hey, right. I mean, it had like 15 kid activities, and my kids heard the invite and they were like, oh my goodness, we have to go to this. But I'm like, I have peopled all week long. Like, the last thing I want to do is go be nice. So joyful for me wasn't going to that. Like, joyful for me was being home and doing a Walmart run to go get ice cream. And did I miss seeing everybody we know? I totally did.
Yeah.
Do I feel bad about it? Not at all. Like, because it wasn't the right thing for me. Like, last week took a lot out of me. I needed joy to come from other places, and it meant being in yoga pants and doing a Walmart run. Like, I don't know if that helps or not, Quinn. Hopefully.
No, it totally does. It totally does. And what I hope everybody's kind of getting as you're listening is just this idea that really living a joyful life requires boundaries. Because I think that that's also something that gets confused in motherhood, is that we think like, well, if we were just go with the flowers and we just said yes to whatever our kids wanted, and we just, sure, you can have dessert tonight and before dinner, or, you know, like, we think it looks like that, I think sometimes. But I hope that that's what you guys are receiving as you're listening, is that it's not at all that. It's still there's, you're holding some structure, you're holding some space for the rhythm of your home to go smoothly, and then you're allowing joy and these surprise fun things in as well. And you're knowing when to say, you know what, this structure doesn't serve us today, so we're going to throw it away and we're going to go do something fun instead. And then we're going to jump back into the structure recharged.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think one of the things too I've learned in motherhood is I need to leave space for that magic to happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get really rigid, like in doing all the things, like we've got to do our homework. We need a healthy, balanced meal. We need to have our laundry done and folded and put away. We need to take treats to the new neighbors who just moved in. We need to take piano lessons. We need to do X, Y, Z. And I feel tired just running off that list. And I do have moments where I feel like, oh my goodness, am I choosing the wrong things for my family? But I don't think that joy is the wrong thing. And so we've done different things. Like we've said no to piano lessons. If it brought joy and my kids were like receiving life from that, we would totally make it happen. But if I compare myself to others, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the worst mom ever who lets their kids quit piano lessons. But it wasn't bringing joy in any way, right? It was pulling joy and sucking resources. And that's good to do a little bit. Like we have to do some of that stuff as moms, but we also need to look, is everything we're doing sucking life out? And where can we create some space? And where can we say no, even though it doesn't make sense? And I still like hesitate every time I say no to something, but I'm honestly surprised how open people are to receiving no. I think they are grateful to hear it. Like, for example, somebody just texted to ask me if I could do this kids activity day thing in June. And June is starting to feel really full to me. And I just looked at that invite and request and thought, this stresses me out. And then I'm asking myself, is there any joy in this? Like, there isn't. And then I'm like guilting myself, like, oh, you should want to go spend time with all the kids. Like, it's summer. That would be fun. And then I'm like, no, it won't be fun. I hate stuff like that. And so I just texted the lady back and I said, you know what? Thank you so much. That sounds really fun. You're right. The kids would enjoy it. And right now I can't commit to something like that. I'll let you know my availability at a later date. And she wrote back. She was like, oh, that's totally fine. I can get another mom to step in. Let me know. Whatever's great. But in the past, I would have said yes, because nice moms love to do field trips, or good moms enjoy these things. And actually, I don't at all. And it's not that I don't do those things with my kids. Sometimes I do, but I like doing it flexible. I like it just fitting into our lives. The thought of like having a text message for the next month about this joyful activity is not joyful at all for me. Like that stresses me out. And so just saying no, she received it totally fine. It was no problem. Like
it's clear.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But your soul knows, like, this joyful spot, I think, is in your heart. I think if you can learn the habit of checking in, and you do this too, Quinn, like, that's not a yes for me. Right? And it's coming from a place of, is this going to fuel my fire? Is this going to fuel me with more joy? Because as women, you've got to be going out into the world and doing things that do fill your cup up, that fuel you with that joy, so you can come back in and pour to the other people. So you can come back in and love on your kids. So you can come in and be a wife or be a daughter, whatever your other life looks like. It comes from having joy in other places. And when I overbook myself and say yes to all the things, like, I don't have it to give to myself or others in the end. And I'm not serving anybody. It'd be better for me to say yes to a couple things that are like, yes, that's an absolute yes. And then say no to a handful of other things and still have some space.
It's so true. I would say, like, to me, that was the biggest takeaway of this whole experience, has been like, only say yes to things that are a wholehearted, heck yes, you know, like, and the rest, let it go and feel peaceful about that. Right. And God, that changed the game. So I hope those of you listening will really feel into like trying that on, just even for a week or for a day. Like, see if you can just say yes more to the things that feel really like a yes. Like, even like with what you were saying earlier, Ash, I think a lot of those times that feel like a yes don't always make logical sense in your brain. So your brain will be like, we don't have time for that. But then when you check in with your heart, you're like, oh, that feels so good. Let's do it, you know?
Absolutely. And I think too, I mean, you mentioned that it requires boundaries. I think it also requires letting go of your old definitions of what things need to look like.
It so does.
Right? Because I think we just keep adding onto our plates and we think, okay, I can keep that up. I'll keep that ball in the air. Sure. Of course. Yes, yes, yes. And really, like, good moms don't do everything. Good moms don't always serve 3 sides with every dinner. Good moms don't make dinner every night. Good moms don't exercise every day. Like, good moms do everything in their own way. But when we have these old definitions that maybe came from our past, or maybe they're coming from comparison to our friends or people online or whatever, those are getting us in trouble. And that's where we don't have space for joy. And if that rocks your world, you love doing that for your family, whatever that is, awesome. Keep it up.
Yeah.
But if it's not bringing joy and it's sucking you dry, it's time to mix it up and be brave enough to make those decisions. And I think what everybody listening will discover is just some freedom.
Yes. Breathing room. Yes. Man, I love this conversation so much, because I think a big piece of what you and I have both played with is this kind of doing things a little bit more simple, or simplifying down to essentials. We love the concept in the book, Essentialism. I think that was a piece of our path for sure too, of just like what actually is essential to support and fuel our family and what is not. My husband and I were just talking about this weekend, that he has the tendency to bring certain people that have antagonistic views about some of our like decisions that we're making right now into the conversation. And so we'll be figuring out something, and then he'll like get on the phone with them and out it will come, and he'll talk to them. And so we had a great conversation this weekend about like, is that actually supporting our family? Like, or does that leave you more drained? You know, like, what would be more supportive to our family, being staying in this zone where we all feel good and we have energy for each other and we can be patient with each other and have fun with each other, means that we don't allow these kinds of conversations, these side conversations that aren't even adding anything, that just end up adding more, well, taking away, because they're adding stress, unnecessarily. So it's like, what's really essential, even with relationships, or what kind of boundaries you have outside of the home, so that you're protecting that space as well, so that it can stay supported in joy.
I totally agree. And I think it's a constant reflection exercise, right? So you're looking back at last week and it's like, okay, those conversations, that is the moment that I felt my energy leave.
Yes.
That's the sign, right? And the cool thing about this conversation, Quinn, is that everybody has the exact same tool that you and I have. Our hearts know. Your heart is letting you know, this is out of boundaries. This isn't for me. This conversation is sucking me dry. Like, as soon as those thoughts come, that is your own intuition letting you know, this is not a joyful experience for you. Are you going to wake up, sister, and do something about it, or no? Like, and as soon as you can start tuning into that heart, you can, even every week, and I always bring structure back, because if it's not structure for me, I don't do it. So for me, Saturday nights, I look at it and I say, okay, what were the wins? Like, what worked and what didn't work? What are the things I need to do less of so that I can feel more joy? And I am honest about myself. Okay, where did I get out of hand? Like, oh, I really regulated on the jobs. Like, that was not joyful. Okay, what could I do different? Oh, I didn't do the music. I insisted that it be, I don't know. There's a difference when I clean with my kids and it's fun versus it absolutely sucks all of us dry and nobody wants to be around me, right? And I know how to do both. I don't know why I still do the other way, but I do.
We just get tired and we forget, right?
Yeah, like, anyway, so it's looking and saying, okay, I can need to do that different. Or I might look and say, hey, how did my weekend go? Oh my goodness, that one experience drained me. Like, less of those types of dinners and more friend time, or more something that does make me feel awesome. Like, I don't know. And it's constant. And you're right. It comes in from other people. It comes in from our kids. But I think we owe it to ourselves, to our family, and to our friends to figure this joy thing out and show up in joy. Like, it's far more fun.
And I will say, I'm wondering if you kind of experienced the same thing, but initially when we first started really choosing joy, I kind of felt like we were kind of the odd ones. Did you feel that way? Where it's like, it wasn't like everybody was like, go Quinn and Ashlee, yay, you're choosing joy in motherhood and in your life, you guys. No, like, there's not a cheerleading crowd, like, at least in my experience. Maybe Ashlee, you had one, but and it felt a little bit more lonely at first, truthfully. So that's why I felt like it was so good for you and I, like, and maybe some of you listening, you could start this with your friends as well, or with somebody you love, that it's like, we just started texting and checking in every day. What was joy for you today? So we were just, like you said earlier, staying accountable, which I think really makes a difference, because if you just like try to just be joyful in just the everyday norms of the school craziness or the neighborhood craziness, like, it's not easy, because joy isn't necessarily on trend. Like, what's on trend is motherhood is hard and we're all exhausted and we're just surviving.
And we're too busy.
Yeah, we're too busy for sure.
Yeah. It's about opening your eyes, though. And I think that accountability piece, if you can invite a friend just to, okay, we are going to find joy in our days. And it's not like Pollyanna, let me find the silver lining type thing. It really is what is the moment where you felt like a kid? What was the moment where you said yes to life? Like, I mean, last week I got on the trampoline and jumped with the kids, which I don't know why that is so hard.
For real.
It is right in the backyard, and it is so easy to go do, and they love it when I go out there. I think part of it is that I might wet my pants every time.
That is my first thought when you said it, because
and I about did. Like, I had to get off, but they absolutely loved it. And so one kid was throwing balls at me and hitting the balls, and I was trying to catch them and throw them off the tramp, and I was doing that. And it honestly took probably 10 minutes. Dinner was cooking, but I realized, like, I had had a heavy day. I hadn't done anything. And it's like, what can I do quickly that's joyful? It's the stuff that doesn't make sense. It's adding extra glitter. It's laughing at a mess. It's sitting down and eating the whole thing of ice cream, like with spoons with your whole family without bowls. Like it's doing things where it's like, no, if somebody saw this, I could be judged, right? Because at first you do feel a little bit fearful. Just like you said, we felt a little bit like, can we do this? Can we quit doing everything we think we're supposed to be doing to do what we really want to do?
So true.
And we did, right?
Yeah.
And it totally forever changed my life. Like, I think it's what makes life doable now.
Yeah, me too. And, you know, I think another piece that's coming to mind that was a big part of this is this kind of surrender that happened as a result of really loving and enjoying the kids we have, instead of constantly feeling like we need to make them different or better. And so
goodness.
I think of your cute Charlotte, and I'm sure,
Oh.
well, and all of our kids, but even like, I just have to tell this really quick because it's cracking me up lately, but my 12-year-old is, oh my gosh, so Claire, she is stepping into this tween zone, and she has the funniest, snarkiest attitude. And initially, like, when it started to come out, actually, I've resisted this part of her for years, but just recently, I've started to just kind of roll with her and kind of, like, I'm not, see, here's me being worried about judging. I think it's adorable. Like, I think the way that she sees life in this, like, she will always spot, like, the snarky thing, and it's kind of silly and funny. And it cracks me up every time. Oh, dear. Ashley's saying I'm muted. Is that better, Ash? Can you hear me?
Personality that you've resisted for years, and then it cut out. I don't know if you're muted or what.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I'm
That's
back
okay.
now.
I just want the recording to be good for you.
Thank you. Well, yeah, so it's just this funny part of her. Like, I'm trying to think of a great example, but she inevitably, I've found what I used to think was so, like, this rude part of her that I was so afraid of. I'm like, oh my gosh, I will not have a rude child. Now I'm noticing it was her sense of humor starting to poke through, and her sense of humor is just like a little bit of that. It's just a little out there. And so now it's like, when I see those signs, it's like her little sense of humor head poking through, then I've been nurturing it. And I'm like, this is who you are. And I think it's hilarious and so fun. Like, this is such a different flavor than I've ever seen. And it's been fun because as I've leaned in, I've noticed it stopped being mean. It stopped being cruel. And it was just like, she's taking herself a lot less seriously too now, which has made it so she can relax into her personality. Mm-hmm. Like, she's not as stressed about, is this going to come across wrong or mean? And she's saying what she feels, but she's finding a way to do it in a fun way that's like, that we're playing with it, you know? So it's like made it into a safe zone because I'm not so scared about my daughter being a mean person, you know?
I love it. So what I would suspect, Quinn, is you probably let go of some sort of expectation or judgment or fear there.
For sure.
Or what will others think?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
And you're able to see just what is there. Like, and now you're joyful about it. I think we talk in the cards just about magic in the mess, like letting go of what it looks like. It's a big thing, but if you can find the courage to do it, it just changes everything. And it brings peace too. Like, as you were talking, I just thought of Charlotte, as you started to mention, is totally a great teacher of joy in the moment. But Saturday, she wanted to wear this outfit that I am like, oh my goodness. Like, so I was like, okay, fine. So she does that. And we run errands in her crazy outfit. And then I take her to the movies. And she's like, be right back. And I'm in the car with it running. And I'm like thinking she's running in to get something simple. Like, I don't know what, but just fast and easy. She comes out with a giant Costco pink unicorn sleeping bag, unicorn slippers. She switched to her pajamas, which of course are character pajamas because that's the only time I really want character shirts worn. Like, character pajamas. What else did she have? Oh, this is the other thing. A tub of frosting. I didn't know about the frosting until we're sitting in the movie. Well, first of all, let me back up. I'm like, you can't wear pajamas to the movies. It's like 2:00 in the afternoon. She's like, it's what I want to wear. I'll be comfortable. The theater's much more comfortable if we have our own stuff. I'm like, you're right. Get in the car. And there's a moment of like, oh my goodness, is everybody going to think I didn't take care of her? Her hair's not done. She's in her pajamas. They're going to think da, 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 da. And then I'm like, no, it's fine. It doesn't matter. Like, she's joyful. It's fine. But when she pulled out that frosting tub in the middle of the movie, I was like, you cannot eat frosting. She's like just dipping her fingers in it. I'm like, what are you eating? It's not popcorn. Oh no, it's homemade frosting. I was like, oh my goodness. But that's life, right? So in that moment, I can either be angry, I can feel judgment, I can shame her, I can shame myself, right? Or I can laugh and be like, okay, we are never bringing frosting again.
Yeah.
And we can laugh our way through it. But I don't know, it makes life a lot easier to not fight some of those battles that I would have fought in the past. And in that moment, I mean, we're trying to share just how to start incorporating joy into motherhood. In the moment, I wasn't saying, how can I make this joyful? Because it has become a habit and it naturally starts to show up and I can see it. But a few years ago, when you and I started this conversation, I couldn't see it. That moment would have been a moment that broke me. It would have been like the straw that broke the camel's back, because there's so many of those throughout the week, right?
Yeah.
But now I'm like, okay, this is classic. Like, it's perfect.
Well, and I think, just that being in the inquiry of like, why do I want them to do this? Or why is this so important to me for them to do this thing or to show up this way? And just being in being curious, I noticed that was a piece that kept holding back joy in our home, as I thought, I will appear to be beautiful if I have 4 beautiful daughters, and people think that I am this wonderful mother if I have 4 beautiful daughters, right? And then I noticed my tendency to want to like make sure and check what they were going to wear and make sure their hair looked really perfect and da 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 da. And so I'm so grateful that we started talking about this conversation a couple of years ago and really started diving in, because it was right around that time where I started to surrender a little bit more and say, you know what, that's not a good enough reason. It's not a good enough reason to make them so stressed and have to change and wear something they hate to this one thing, just because then it will make me feel good, and look better, right? Because what's true? Am I a good mom? Yes, I'm a good mom. So do I need them to dress a certain way so that I look like a good mom? No, I don't need to prove to anybody else. And so now that my girls are getting older and they're ebbing into their teenage years, I'm noticing that I maybe would have forced some really interesting self-esteem issues that I wouldn't have foreseen back then, So like now it's like I'm watching how my girls take care of themselves, and instead of me being stressed about, do you look beautiful so that our family looks good, it's like now I'm able to see, oh my goodness, Claire hasn't really been taking good care of herself. I wonder what's going on. Let me ask some questions. Let's check in on her heart and her soul and see how she's feeling. And how can we support her to feel better about herself? Like it's a totally different conversation that is healthier and so much more supportive than if I would have just stayed in that zone of just trying to look good and make sure we looked like a good mom. So nobody would be suspicious that we really were a mess behind closed doors, because everybody's really a mess behind closed doors. You know?
Well, and that's such a beautiful gift you are giving your girls, right? Because they're not going to look back and see you as somebody who had full anxiety all the time about how they looked and how the experience was. Hopefully, some of those magical moments of you stopping to jump on the tramp, you stopping to paint with them, you stopping your agenda to let life happen. Hopefully that's what they remember, and that's the legacy that is left.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I love Brene Brown's definition of what does love feel like. And I believe it's something like that, but she says it's feeling seen, valued, and heard. And so I think at the end of the day, this is really where joy lives. It's in this zone of I see, I hear, and I value my own heart and soul. And then I allow all of these stories and these shoulds and these have tos and these measuring up points to fall so that I can just see, hear, and value my children, my husband, my path as it is right now.
Totally.
And find
It's funny. And they'll eventually figure out, like, not to wear pajamas to the movies.
Yeah.
To comb their hair. To not eat frosting at the movies.
That is going to crack me up. Next time I go to the movies, I will be like, should we bring a tub of frosting?
If you're going to bring it, like, at least bring graham crackers or something. Like, let's really go for it.
Yeah. Aw. Well, goodness, it's always seriously so much fun to talk to you about joy. And I can't believe how fast our time has gone. So I just really hope and pray, and I know you do too, Ash, that we want this to really touch your heart, that it'll awaken the joy that's there, the joy meter that's already inside of you, that you'll be more inclined to say, you know what, that matters. And I am going to listen to that and let it guide. Do you have any? Amen. Yeah.
Yeah, amen. And just, you are worthy and deserving of that experience. And it will feel awkward initially, but if you will sacrifice your old story to just have a little spark of joy during your week, you will seriously forever change yourself and your family and those relationships. And that is so worthwhile. And we're cheering you on so that you too can feel a little bit more joy in that motherhood experience, because it can rock your world. But I think that joyful piece makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah. And I think in closing, I would love to hear your reflections on this too, but I know that through this process, it has made motherhood truly one of the most delicious things in my entire life. And I never thought it would be that way. I thought we just kind of had to get through it. And now it's like, even just lately where I've been counting the years and I'm like nervous. Oh my gosh, we only have 5 years left with all of our babies under this roof. Like this, let's savor this. How can we lean in even more to joy? How can we savor this time together even more? By just adding more fun in. Where can we add more fun? Where can we add more adventure together? Where can we play more together? And just has helped me to value it more, where it's just precious. And like my kids, they really are joy. And I don't know, what's been your experience though? Like,
I think I absolutely agree with you. I think what I want to model for my kids is that joyful life. And it's not that it's all sunshine and rainbows around here. It's absolutely not. It's chaos. It looks just like your house, wherever you are. Like, I mean, if I just look right now, the weekend mess is still here. The ball hit the mirror. That mess is still here. The mirror broke. I mean, there's a lot of chaos here, but I think my kids come home and they feel that belonging. They feel that love. They have seen joy modeled. And my hope is that they can take that with them and live happy too, like beyond happy, live content and rejoicing, and that my relationship stays strong with them. I hope they still want to come around because I'm with you. It is going fast.
Yeah. Yeah. And even to think like once they're out of the house and some of you listening, your kids are grown, it's like, how do we still return to joy? You know, how can we lean in more to these principles and just really treasure each other and savor each other a little bit more? Not as like a big, immeasurable thing, but just really that space where you just can breathe into what is. Like I was thinking the other night, I actually mentioned this in episode 100 a little bit, but just I was laying in bed with Randy and we were just both reading stuff, and I don't know, there was a part of me that was really tired, and I was just thinking, you know what, is this the best that is this as good as it's gonna get, was the question. And so I started to think about, you know, some of my temptations are always like, well, let's plan out how it's going to be perfect and amazing in the future. And then it hit me like, oh my gosh, here I am sitting in a home with people I love with all my heart. And I found joy here, and they mean so much to me, and I get to see them every day. Like, this is as good as it gets. Like, and I hope to be like, I feel like that's what joy's kind of anchored me to, is that each day it's like, this is as good as it's going to get. quit thinking that tomorrow is where it's going to be. Like, what's the good in today? How do we savor that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just that awareness, you can take a pause, and it doesn't take that much to bring the joy back in.
Right.
And it's an experiment. You can test, you can see, okay, what brings joy back in. But I don't know, at my house, we found little things in just a few minutes can shift the entire experience for everybody.
Yeah.
And it almost always starts with me. If I can show up in that space, they follow right along. And if I show up in the other space that I also know how to do, they follow along there too. But it's worth the journey of transforming your home and your experience, because it is what's here today, and you don't know what you have tomorrow. So I would rather know that I had a few joyful moments that I created intentionally than look back and be like, well, what the heck was that? Like, that was the worst. It was just a bunch of laundry and dishes.
Which is what also life can be if we miss it, because there's always a lot of laundry and dishes. Oh, wildness. Well, goodness, I'm so grateful for this conversation, this time to talk about joy and motherhood with you today, Ash. And I would highly recommend, we're going to put a link in the show notes to the Fueled with Joy in Motherhood affirmation card deck that we mentioned. It is so fun. It has 22 or 24. No, I'm off.
22, I think.
22 different cards. They all have these gorgeous affirmations on the front. And then a little, I loved how you described it earlier, Ash, of just, they're a little bit edgy and fun, but a little kind of blurb on the back about how to weave that in, or what does that actually look like. So the one that I pulled up on my screen, just in closing, just to remind us, is one of the affirmations is, I trust myself. And so I'll just read this. This is actually Ashlee's words, so I'm going to give her full credit. But she says on the back, you have a gift straight from heaven that has been placed in your heart to guide you in all things. Your intuition is a real thing, and it is safe to trust yourself. There is no need to second guess your mother's intuition. Rather, lean into that voice that guides you. Let your mind quiet and listen to the wisdom in your own heart. It's tempting to self-criticize, but remember, you always know more than you think you do. Hold a firm belief in yourself, in your ability to do this motherhood thing, in your strength, and in a positive outcome in all things. Trust. So on that note, we'll connect you to those, but remember to trust yourself. Trust your joy. It really matters. You matter. And we're just so grateful for you guys showing up and in support of joy and joy in motherhood and life. So Ashlee, any final?
No, just thank you. And when I think of these cards, it's really what we would just text you. If you texted me and said, oh my goodness, I cannot do this, I'm not going to make it, this is what we would use to help you lift up out of that. And I just appreciate the sisterhood that all of us women enjoy together.
Yes. Amen. Oh, goodness. Okay. So check all that out in the show notes, and then you can head to fueledwithjoy.com, and then know that Ashlee and I are cheering you on every day in staying true to what your heart is telling you to do, staying true to that yes and to your joy. So loving you all so much, and so much gratitude to you. We will talk to you all soon. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And in the end, only love will last.
You've been listening to Joyful Living. If you haven't already done so, be sure to email me at quinn@joyfullivingmovement.com so I can send you our yummy Joyful Living welcome package filled with lots of awesomeness, including access to our private Joyful Living network. I read every email from my listeners and would love to hear from you. Also, be sure to leave a review on iTunes, and most importantly, have a joy-filled day.